Hi and welcome to the We Need Votes podcast, and it's been a surprisingly busy summer of shows and movies for us to talk about that we really haven't had a chance yet, because there's been so many big movies out like Mission Impossible, Indiana Jones, Barbie, Oppenheimer, really getting in the way. Here's the episode where we're going to be talking Deep Breath, The Meg 2, The Blackening, Talk to Me, Scrapper, Blue Beetle, and on TV, Deadloch and Platonic, amongst other stuff we've been watching. So it's just going to be a whole big smorgasbord of basically what we've been watching that we haven't really talked about yet on a pod, and recommendations of stuff that I think, well, you should watch, Jose, and stuff that
our listeners
you should all watch, and stuff, and yeah, our listeners should listen to and watch, and also stuff you should really stay away from as pants. Although probably not too much of that. And as yes, you've already introduced yourself there. I'm joined by Jose again, and David is back in his dungeon.
Yeah, we had to put him away for a little while.
He got way excited last time. Too excited.
Eerily excited. No, I'm kidding.
I know he's looking after another dog as well at the minute, so that's probably it. 2 dogs. That's it.
He likes dogs. He likes dogs.
Dags.
Sorry, that's a Snatch reference for those of you who don't really know.
Or I was going to say, is that a Snatch reference for people who didn't understand what accent you were going for there?
Oh, yeah. I think I'm by accidentally not doing a good accent, it was still actually a good accent. You like dags.
Is it racist, though? No.
Oh,
we'll get into that later anyway. We'll get into that much later in the film we're going to be talking about in a while. But first up is a film that maybe has one of the best taglines of the year, which is New Meg, Old Chum. Yep, it's Statham vs. Shark Part 2, bizarrely directed by Kill List and Sightseers director Ben Wheatley, and brought to you by the People's Republic of China. Yes, the line, China cares about the ocean, is even uttered in this film. Now, you saw the trailer. We talked about the trailer for this a little while ago, where you saw the little lizard, then it got eaten by the bigger lizard, and then a small dinosaur came along, and then a big T-Rex came out, and then the T-Rex got eaten by a Meg. Well, that's the start of the film, just a lot more truncated in the trailer. So they've basically given away the whole first scene of the film in the trailer.
Oh, that's the whole first scene.
Pretty much. They've just cut it down, obviously, to, like they cut the timing on it down. And from there, the little plot the film really does have is that we see Statham's Dr. Jonas Taylor investigate a breach in the Mariana Trench where 3 even bigger Megs and other assorted beasties come through. So this should have been the film. But instead of that, we get maybe 20 minutes of them dicking around before they go down and investigate this thing, because they're trying to remind us who the characters were from the first film. I see even now, after seeing both films, I cannot tell you if any of the other characters were in the first film. That's how memorable, or lack of memorable, they were. And so I was like, come on, the trailer promised us sea monsters, big octopuses, crazy action scenes. And no, we got them trying to do family drama, and then half an hour of them titting around on the ocean floor in a submarine trying not to get eaten. And it also means they're not showing you the big monsters yet. Finally, about an hour in, you get back to the surface, and that's where the fun begins. That's where you have a little bit... I think the film is a little bit more tongue-in-cheek than the first one. I think they tried to play it deadly serious in the first one, and I think getting Wheatley on as director, you kind of know he's having a bit more fun with it. But I still think the trailer really overpromised. It took so long to get to the good stuff, but I mean, I was just... The biggest crime of a film like this is it's boring for at least a half of it. Wow. And it's only once the sharks come up. And again, the whole Chinese thing, it's yet another pleasure island just off somewhere in China that gets attacked, just like the same thing that happened at the end of the first film. And it's like, did these people not learn from the first one? I mean, I was expecting more weirdness and a bit more gore in it. It's very yes, sharks eat a lot of people, but you don't see any gore. I mean, probably one of the highlights is there's a really cool shot, a POV shot from inside the shark's mouth as it's eating people. I thought that was quite cool.
Well, here's the thing is, I just looked up, Meg 2, The Trench, is actually PG-13. So, unfortunately, no more gore is allowed than probably in the first one. And that's really, I think, what could have made the film probably better, is allowing it an R rating.
I was about to say, this is the film that should have gone full Piranha 3D. That is a film that is loved for its over-the-top cheesiness. And it's actually really gruesome in places. This needed to be Piranha 3D, and there's not a lot of films you can say that about, where you're comparing Piranha 3D as something positive. But I was just watching this going, it needs to be Piranha 3D, man. It needs to be gorier. It needs to be funnier. It's just not doing either.
They're saving that for the Meg 3.
Which you know is going to come, because these films have done massively well.
Yeah.
In China.
Yes.
Not so much in the rest of the world, but Again, I mean, the company on the credits is CMC, which literally is Chinese media company. So it's literally the Chinese state making these films.
Yeah, I think for some of these listeners, we have to remind them that China accounts for millions upon millions of dollars of movie revenue, because of just how many people are in China. Like, and if you can kind of compare it, Transformers. The reason we got so many movies that we think of as really bad is because they were so popular in China. China literally carried that series across so many movies because they loved them. And if you notice, a lot of times there's countries they're visiting China. They have Chinese product placement. They have Chinese actors.
Yeah, that's happened in a lot of big action films and those scenes as well are edited down slightly in like the main worldwide releases, but in the Chinese ones, their roles are expanded apparently.
Yeah, and I think another movie that I think was also slightly enhanced by Chinese actors and product placement was Pacific Rim 2. If you notice, there's a lot of Asian characters and actors there that we probably don't know, but they're huge in China. So that it's kind of interesting to see how much of that affects American movies.
Well, like you say, at the end of the year, when we always look at like what films made the most money, there's always 2 or 3 films on the list I've never heard of because they're Chinese films, and they are the big Chinese box office films of the year.
We're not the only ones with lots of money in the country.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could even talk about Bollywood if I knew anything about it, but I know that makes a shit ton of money as well.
Yeah, I wish I knew more. I saw a really good YouTube channel, and they did one episode purely on Bollywood, and actually how it's not just Bollywood. There's different countries / cities / areas that contribute to all that.
There's a African, like a West African one called I can't remember the name of it, but they made like these really cheap, low budget action films. And there's a really famous one, and I think you can see it free online, and it's called Who Killed Captain Alex? And it's literally like a bunch of kids got together with next to nothing and just made like pastiches of these big action films.
Was this like over 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I think I know about this then.
Yeah,
we all should watch this one more time and then come back and review it.
Definitely. That's for one of the later pods.
Yes.
I just see David's face now when we make him watch Who Killed Captain Alex.
Yeah. It's like YouTube channel. What?
So so the Meg 2, it's fine, but it's disappointing because with Ben Wheatley as director, I was expecting a lot more. I was expecting him to go in and sort of turn up the weirdness, and he just, he just really towed the People's Republic line on this one, sadly for me.
Here's a question: do you think it's him, or do you think it's more of people above him?
It's definitely people above him. Okay. I mean, yeah, like. That was the thing when he was appointed for this. He'd done Kill List, he did Sightseers, he's done episodes of Doctor Who, he's done Rebecca on Netflix was his last film, which he did Free Fire, which is superb. Have you ever seen a film called Free Fire, Jose?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Cillian Murphy, Arnie Hammer, when we could still talk about him, is in it. Brie Larson's in it, and it's essentially just a shootout in a warehouse. It's basically like a modern day Reservoir Dogs.
Yes, I did see that. I love it. I love that movie. It's so smart too, because it's like you're just in a warehouse shooting each other, and it was really fun. Yes, I remember that was like years ago. Yes, I love that movie.
Good 7 or 8, maybe more years ago now. But yeah, same director, man.
That's great. Yeah, then he's definitely reined back because
what he's done. He does quite a few weird experimental films. He did one called In the Earth, which was one of his most recent ones. And he did another one called A Field in England. So what we're hoping generally from this is that, because they've made him so much money, I'm sure he's been paid well for it, that he takes that money and then goes and makes 2 or 3 more of his awesome earlier kind of films. I don't think anyone really wants to be making this. I'm thinking it's kind of like the one for you, one for me. But in this case, it's 1 for you and 3 for me because it's loads and loads of Chinese money. Yes. So the Meg 2, slightly disappointing. Should have been more fun, should have been gorier. But hey, if you've got nothing to do, then give it a watch, I suppose. But have a doze through the first hour and just wake up for the monster munching at the end of the film. That's pretty much all I can say with that. Now, moving on quickly, there have been quite a few secret screenings recently that I've been going to. I mean, we've had loads. We had Joyride about a month ago over here in the UK, and that actually came out a month before it came out in the cinemas on a regular run, which was, again, a great film for Asian representation, and also a film about a bunch of ladies who went to China, but didn't feel like it was paid for by the Chinese government. Actually, I don't know the background of that.
From what I've seen of that trailer, China probably does not want to be
No, I don't exactly. I do
associated.
not think it. Yeah, as you tell a lot. Yeah, thinking about the content of that film, there's no way they were connected with it in any way now.
I actually forgot about that movie, which is a shame because it looked really funny, and it honestly reminds me of like a male Hangover.
Yep,
And
that's exactly what they were going for. And it's I mean, okay, we're talking about that briefly now, sure, but yeah, no, it's definitely worth seeing as well. I was just literally brought it up because it was one of the first secret screenings we had, and then recently we had Talk to Me, which is an Aussie horror film by the Philippou brothers. They're twin brothers, I believe, Danny and Michael Philippou, and it's their debut film. And it's an A24. It's been released by A24 all over the world, and it's made 46 million so far on a budget of 4.5 million.
wow. I
Yeah.
think also one of the most notable things I learned about this movie, those brothers, they started off with a YouTube channel, and I actually saw a small interview with them saying that a lot of fans of theirs wanted them to create a feature film, and they were trying to find the best way to create something with a story. And because if you watch their YouTube channel, it's mostly like action shooter, fun, like because they're off of video games and pop culture. So a lot of people thought either a comedy or an action shooter, and then they come out with a horror, and it was like completely left field for them and their fans. But they were excited because this is like, we felt that, I'm very much paraphrasing here, but they were saying that they felt that it was a good way for them. Hold on, can you hear that?
Yep. Someone is definitely being murdered in Florida right now, aren't they, Jose?
Yeah. Let me
Is
start
that
over.
is that a gator attack or?
Most likely a gator attack. We are by water. So the twin brothers were famous for YouTube, and a lot of their fans expected something like comedy or action because of their content on their YouTube channel. But they just wanted something completely different in terms of like, because they wanted to tell a story that they had an idea for. And so horror is what came up from them, and they were really excited. And they actually made their film separately from A24, and A24 just happened to pick
Bought it
them
up
up.
afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, and they said that A24 was great because they didn't do anything to the film. They just like, you know what, we love it. We're just gonna pick it up and distribute it. And I'm telling you right now, A24 is coming to be one of these great studios that I hope just keeps going and making great stuff.
It was funny. Like there were so many walkouts in this film, really early
Mm-hmm.
on. The irony is when I got in, I ordered I booked the wrong seat by accident. I always kind of book back row to the right. That's kind of like my favourite seat. So I can you can literally get down, you can leave your seat and go if you need to nip to the toilet, and you're not in anyone's way. But also, you kind of get to see the whole screen and the reaction as well, which is what I like
Okay.
to see as well. But I accidentally booked the wrong seat, and lo and behold, who was sat next to me in the two seats? My cousin and his wife.
No way.
And I just sort of said, "Oh well, yeah, what we're seeing, what we thought it might be this." And then she said, my cousin's wife said, "Oh well, if it's that horror film, then we're leaving."
Oh,
And
just
the second like the title come up, talk to me. I was like, "That's the one," and they got up and left.
that's a shame.
I mean, the film opens at a party, and proper Aussie party, and suddenly this kid just starts smashing his head and like into a wall and going mental, and like the
Wow.
the kind of tonal shift from kind of comedic party scene to shocking violence. I think that's what this film does really well. And like you say, the second like there's what happens in the opening scene happens, people just like literally like, okay, it's going to be that kind of film. Again, more people got up and walked out.
Wow.
Um, as the film starts, we meet a young girl called Mia, and she's struggling with the anniversary of her mother's death. It's weird because you've got her best friend Jade, her little brother Riley, and they sneak out to a party. And at the party, some older guys, and they have this embalmed hand that lets you talk to the dead. And it's so matter of factly like, yeah, this is just something that we do. You grab the hand, you say, "Talk to me," and they strap you into a chair, and then you get possessed for like a minute, or sorry, 90 seconds. But the rule is, don't go over 90 seconds because bad shit will happen. You can guess what's going to happen.
Yes.
They go over 90 seconds. And it's kind of like you say, the weird tonal things, like it's kind of like quite ha comedy and like these dickhead kids, of course, what's going to happen. But then it goes into this kind of really serious meditation on grief. And the young actress who plays Mia, her name's Sophie Wilde. Again, I think this is her debut. I read, again, I saw some interviews with the directors and they were like, if we got anything out of this film, it was literally just introduce her to the world because she's that
Wow,
good. And
that's awesome.
yeah, and then like I say, she starts obviously she stays a bit too long, so she starts seeing things in kind of the regular day. And I don't really want to give any more about the way the story goes, but I will say, films like this, it has one of the best endings I've seen in a
Wow.
horror film in years. The ending is
Mm.
so well done, and it's brilliant because if you think back to the start of the film when you watch it, it makes perfect sense. And like, but when you're watching it, we're trying to figure out where the film's going. And like I say, it's really all over the place tonally, but it's what keeps you off guard as you're watching it. And I think for some people, that's what made them uncomfortable because you're like, I
Mm.
don't know if I should be laughing or horrified at this. That bit is really freaking me out. Okay, but that's funny. It really walks the line well between horror and comedy. I'd say more horror, and like it's probably like if you had to do a pie chart, like 80% horror, maybe 20% comedy, but that 20% just kind of it's not like ha comedy, like a film I'm going to be talking about in a little while. It's more kind of black comedy. We're like, oh shit, that's
Like
funny, but it
almost
shouldn't be.
nervous laughter you're getting.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people don't like that. I think that's why I got even more walkouts because it wasn't
Oh
just
wow.
like a mass exodus at the start. There's quite a few people left at the start. There are more people left after the first, but people were still leaving up to an hour into the film.
Wow. That's
So it's
weird.
like they were like, what? Okay, I was like, you've put that long into it, and you don't want to see how it ends, even if you know. Yeah, it just blew my mind. But yeah, it's been such a success that they're already working on a sequel. And
Of course.
again, the way the film ends is perfectly can be set up, and there's so many ways they can take it, which is what I really like. Also, I think I've read somewhere as well they've already made a prequel, and they're on about they just did it for when they were like getting stuff together to make this. They filmed all this stuff on the mobile phones because one of their ideas
Oh
was
wow.
one of the ideas from the film was that this is the weird thing. It's like it's all when the kids are like getting possessed, all their mates are filming it and put it on social media, and everyone just
Wow.
thinks it's like they're on drugs and stuff like that. So it's kind of
Wow.
like so you see someone like going like that and shaking in a chair. Again, that doesn't really work. That was me shaking in a chair, folks. But that's what they kind of go for, and it's kind of really funny how they just play it off as, oh yeah, it's fine. And then, so they filmed all these different mobile phone videos and all this kind of stuff. And the directors, one of the guys said it was from him seeing a video of some kid off his face on drugs who looked like he was possessed. It's where they got one of the initial ideas for the film.
Wow.
But yeah, like these guys, I mean, Edgar Wright's retweeted them and said how great the film was. Like all the top film directors have said, yeah, brilliant
Nice.
one, guys.
That's
So
excellent.
I think these are going to be the guys to follow for a little while on.
I really hope they're allowed to make the movies that they want for the sequel and the prequel, because obviously they have the ideas for it. They just
Yeah.
hopefully the studios don't. Well, you know what? They're with A24, so I have actually a lot of confidence in them.
A24 are good at the marketing and distribution. That's what they kind of not just on making their own, producing their own films, but they're really good at picking up the great and sort of smaller
Yeah.
indies. So
Yeah.
I mean, I had a great time with her talk to me. I don't, again, it's one of these things where I don't think it's for everyone, and I think the tone might put some people off. But if anything, I think I underrated it when I came out. I think I gave it 3.5 stars, and I've bumped that up to 4 now.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
a
4
great.
out of 5 now. So the more I thought about it afterwards, I was like, no, actually, that was really good, and I loved the ending.
Excellent. Excellent.
Now, another film that has had a bit of a delay coming out in the UK, because I'm looking at the poster and it came out in the States in June, is The Blackening, which the trailers over here build it as Get Out meets Scary Movie, which is it's kind of right, but it's also kind of lazy because it's not really like any of those films. Again, and this is the thing that I was talking about with Talk to Me, where it walks this weird tonal consistency between horror and comedy. Because Talk to Me was so dramatic and shocking with the violence and the horror, The Blackening doesn't have that problem. The problem with The Blackening is it's nowhere near gory enough. It's more of a comedy outright than it is even close to being what I'd say a horror.
So it's actually quite the opposite. Say 80% comedy, 20% horror,
Yeah,
or even
I
less.
would go with that. To be fair, but the film it's directed by Tim Story, who did the original Fantastic Four films.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So he did those, and it was written by Tracy Oliver and Dwayne Perkins, who also is one of the stars of the film, who plays a character called Dwayne. Now, again, I'm not the target audience for this, right? I am a working class white guy from England in my 40s. This is a film about black culture and taking the piss out of stereotypes of black people in films, and even so much so that within the film, they're taking a piss out of those stereotypes within their own community. So again, I'm not going to get a lot of these references. For me, I'm looking at it on a whole different level. I'm kind of, is it funny? Is it scary? Is it gory? Yes, not really.
Here's a question. I'm looking at the rating for The Blackening in the US. It's a R rating. Would you say the movie reflected that?
I reckon it's got to be the language, because I've not heard the N-word said as many times in a film ever, I don't think. So yeah, I mean, also the thing for it though is it had a really low budget. It was $5 million this cost.
Oh wow!
So it made 17.7 million at the minute. That was before it came out in the rest of the world, right? So it's only now getting released on a general release around the world.
So it has actually made a profit then. So potentially a profitable movie.
I'm kind of torn on it because it does really do a good job of kind of critiquing the stereotypes of black people. I mean, like, look at the poster. It says, "We can't all die first" on it.
Yes, that was a great tagline, honestly.
And if anything, for me, it's got more in common with Scream and Saw in the kind of setup. So again, you have a group of friends arrive to a cabin. You have the pre-title sequence where there's a couple there early, and stuff's going to happen to them, and then you're always going to get that and that really made me think of Scream. Okay, here's two characters. Definitely they're going to die, and then we're gonna get back to how the film starts. And there's even a few bits where they almost break the fourth wall. Like there's a joke in the opening scene where one of the I think it's Jay Farrow from Saturday Night Live who's in the opening scene, and he's like, and they're literally talking about the start of Scream 2 when they had was it Jada Pinkett and Omar Epps, I think it was.
Yes,
and they say, well, yeah, they couldn't afford them for the whole film, could they? And then they look at each other and look at the camera. And I was like, okay, you guys are clearly not going to be going any further in this film than I do. Which is a shame, because I thought Jay Farrow was amazing on Saturday Night Live, and I haven't really seen him do anything.
Oh yeah, he's great. He's great, especially with his impressions. But that's another topic.
You then get your main group of friends sort of turning up, and you've got Alison, Clifton, King, Shanika, Dwayne, Lisa, Mdwadi, and Sean, and Morgan. And the token white guy is the most whitest person you can ever get. Is Diedrich Bader as Ranger White. That's literally his name.
Ranger White.
And they all sort of then turn up at the cabin, and they go in and they find a game that was obviously been the game called The Blackening, which is just spectacularly racist in everything it does. But then the TV comes on, and they get told, and you see this bit in the trailer, that you have to play a game. Well, that's Saw. But the game is, they got like a board game, and they have to move around it by getting questions right about black culture and black culture films and horror films. And there's a brilliant question in it. I'll say this one, because I don't want to say it all, but there's a trivia at one, and there's a question about all the black actors that guested on Friends.
Oh my
and if
goodness.
they get any question wrong, someone gets killed.
Wow.
I'm not really the person to talk about this, so I'd love to know what people honestly think of this. Does it go too far? Does it deep enough into it? Is it really representative? I'd love to, I'm going to have to do some research and just look online and see kind of what black critics thought of this.
Yeah.
And especially, I can imagine this film playing in the States in obviously black neighborhoods and just absolutely killing.
No pun intended.
Whereas there was well, yeah, no, actually, no pun intended. Whereas in the UK, it was just kind of basic, kind of the occasional golf clap, like no one claps in the cinema in the UK, but it's like the general kind of ha ha, like a little chuckle here or there.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because a lot of the references were lost on this, to be honest. But It was funny. The actors were all really, really good. Who I hadn't heard of any of them, bar Jay Farrow, to be fair. My only problem with it is who the killer is just telegraphed so heavily early on. You're like, when you meet all the characters, you're like, well, that's going to be the killer. And it is. And you're just like, okay, well.
If anything, it looks like that. I don't know how it was marketed in the UK, but I know in the States, sorry for that.
Someone's on fire now, Jose. That's definitely, that sounds like a...
Yeah, that is a fire truck, actually. It's literally.
But you're near the water, so that's kind of concerning.
Yes.
If we hear more, if you start smelling smoke, then we might have to postpone for a little while.
I'll keep you on posted. So I don't know how it was marketed in the UK, but in the US, it definitely was giving the impression that it was more of a comedy with a horror twist.
Yeah.
So it is not surprising to say that it's mostly comedy. I guess I was hoping that it would be more horror as well, but I mean,
if it's got the R rating right, they really could have gone with the gore. I think that would have helped it. I think telegraphing the killer was like a point off it for me, and the fact it wasn't gory enough. Like, you could have really played the gore up for comedy here, and I can't really remember. The weapon of choice for the killer is a bit pants. Like you're like, why would you use that? It's not a pair of pants. It's just not great. That would have been more interesting.
Yes, for
Would have
American
been longer.
viewers, that's just a saying. That's not a literal answer to what he used.
We're not going to get into the whole pants trousers thing because it's just confusing.
When you describe this movie, it almost even reminds me of maybe a lesser version of Cabin in the Woods, because Cabin in the Woods is such a great homage to horror movies, but it was actually
Cabin in the Woods is better.
Oh yeah, I can see that, but it means that Cabin in the Woods was actually pretty gory. It used a lot of blood, and it was still very funny though. So it was almost like a good mixture of horror and comedy.
Do you know what though? Like I like the Blackening. Like it's perfectly fine. It's perfect for me. I think I gave it 3 stars in it. It's like
all right, great.
I think if you are black yourself, I think you're going to get more from it because you're going to get more of the cultural references and touchstones. But I just think, yeah, for me, Killer should have been better written than the idea of who the killer was. Turn up the gore. Comedy was there. Gore wasn't there. So the Blackening also took 3 months to come out.
Yeah, you said it looks like it's going to do a profit. So do you think they're?
It's already made a profit. It's already tripled its budget. It cost $5 million to make, which is really so. Yeah, actually, that's more of a thing the film can be proud of. It's tripled its budget, and that was before it was released in the rest of the world. So hopefully, it could probably do that again from opening in other territories. So yeah, we'll see how we go. It is a very American film, though, in its kind of
that's what I'm wondering.
And the culture, so I'm not sure if that's going to translate. I mean, it took them 3 months to figure out how to release it over in the UK, right? So, but they did have a big poster up with "They Can't All Die First" on it. So, yeah,
I love it.
The Blackening, and the day was it the day after? I think it was the day before I saw the Blackening. Totally got this wrong in the script. Peeking back behind the curtain, we had another secret screening, and I got a little bit of a mini rant here because I was lucky enough to see a secret screening of a film called Scrapper, which is a debut film by a young British filmmaker called Charlotte Regan. I think Regan, UK, don't know. Sadly, about 20-odd people walked out because all beforehand, people thought it was either going to be Blue Beetle or Strays. And I was just like, now look, the problem is these secret screenings, they used to be, and this is me being my elitist snob, they used to just be for unlimited members. If you're an unlimited member of this particular cinema chain that we go to, you pay either like a 200 quid for the whole year, and you can see as many films as you want to see, and that's it. Just show your card, boom, you're in, or book online, doesn't cost you anything. Or you pay by the month, and it's like, I know, like 17 quid a month. And again, see as many films as you want to see. So if you're someone who spends that much money on going to the cinema, you're probably going to be a bit more open to what's put in front of you, and perhaps understand what a secret screening is. But the downside for that, for the cinema company, for the cinema chains is, if we've paid our 200 quid a year or we're on a regular thing per month, we're not paying for the ticket for that screening. So that screening is making them nothing on ticket sales. So all they're making is money on like hot dogs and popcorn and drinks. But if you open these screenings out to anyone who wants to come and say, oh, it's a secret screening, if you don't like it, tough shit, we're keeping your money, it's essentially what it is, then you're going to get a few more people in, but you're also going to get more walkouts. Because these people just assume it's going to be a big film, and it generally really isn't. Over the last year, we had Dungeons & Dragons a month before it came out, which was amazing. We had Joyride, which, again, amazing, a month before it came out. But then we had Talk to Me about a week before it came out, and we've now got Scrapper, which I think is on really, really limited release everywhere because it's a small British indie film. I think the only reasons that I can really go with for someone walking out of a film as like a secret screening is if it's a genre you don't jive with, like horror, for example. Like a lot of people aren't horror fans, and if you're one of those, fair enough. Like I said, my cousin and his wife left because they didn't want to watch horror. Or say you've booked tickets in advance to see that film that's showing early with friends like late next week or the week after. Again, I want to see it with my friends, fair enough. But if I just, for the life of me, I can't understand people paying to see a film, going for a night out, and then leaving with their popcorn when they see the film title isn't the film they want to see, and then all they do is go online and moan about it afterwards. Yeah. But I digress. Let's talk about Scrapper. Yeah. So, written and directed by first-timer Charlotte Regan, Scrapper is this year's almost as good as After Sun. You familiar with After Sun, Jose?
I am not.
Right, at all. You don't know anything about After Sun?
I've never heard it.
Right, so briefly, Jose, there was a film last year that came out called After Sun, directed again by a first timer called Charlotte Wells, and it starred
Another Charlotte.
Charlotte Regan, Charlotte Wells. Just if you're Charlotte, you're going to make a film, and it's going to be brilliant in a minute. And it stars Paul Mescal, who's man of the moment, starring in Gladiator 2 soon, and loads of other stuff. And Frankie,
yes.
a young actress called Frankie Corio as well.
Hmm.
And it was basically this like a woman looking back on her life, like at home videos of her and her dad on a holiday when they were younger, and it's implied heavily that he's not around in the present.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of see her having this great time on holiday with her dad, but then you see him also struggling to just deal with mental health issues. And it's really kind of bittersweet and dark, but also just, you know, a film about a man like hanging out with his daughter. So it's a really good film. And it got like 5-star reviews everywhere last year. I think it got a bunch of nominations at the BAFTAs and the Oscars. There's a great bit where the young girl does karaoke and sings "Losing My Religion" alone because her dad won't sing it with her.
Oh,
yeah, and it was a really great film. The central thing was that relationship between the young daughter and her sort of troubled father, and that's what Scrapper has going for it. I would say thematically it's very similar. In this film, you have a young girl called Georgie, played by another newcomer called Lola Campbell, who is absolutely superb. And her mother's passed away recently, and she's living by herself and pretending she's living with an uncle. And she steals bikes with her friend Ali, and they sell them to keep up this charade. She gets local shopkeepers to pretend to be her imaginary uncle when she needs to speak to the school and like the social services people. And yes, this is her uncle Winston Churchill, which I believe is really funny. And she's never seen without her West Ham football shirt, which actually is on a poster, and I think may have put some people off, thinking it's a football film.
Ah.
Because
I thought you were going to say because they were fans of other teams.
Oh, probably that as well. But no, it's just because it's a football film. But look, it's a great debut from all concerned. It's just a warm yet realistic portrayal of this young girl trying to process her grief, and like little things she does where she's like cleaning her house and leaving the cushions exactly as her mum had them. It's like, it's all that kind of stuff that's done really well. And of course, one day, out of nowhere, her feckless dad, who she's never met, turns up. Played by another young rising British acting star, Harris Dickinson, who was in Triangle of Sadness last year, which again got loads of awards thing. And her dad, when we meet him, he's just like a typical lad's lad. He's been working in Ibiza as a holiday rep. He's out like drinking and partying all the time. And he basically says to her, look, me and your mum, we had you when we were too young. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't get on. And that's why I left. And what the film then kind of is both characters trying to get to know each other and figure out if this will even work. Like, she's really resistant to him at the start, and you can kind of see that he's out of his depth. And it's just like a really nice kind of bittersweet comedy drama. I would say it's a bit more upbeat than After Sun. And I would say that what it does have very in common often is a scene of a dad and daughter dancing badly, very badly. But it's a really nice scene. And from this film, I think, again, director Reagan is certainly someone who's going to be worth keeping an eye on, as is Campbell, who, if there's any like young rising star awards for acting, she's definitely got to be in contention for it this year, because she's really good. So shame on you 25 people who walked out without giving this a chance, because a secret screening is exactly where you should watch this type of film and support emerging young filmmaking talent. Rant over. Jose, I have no idea when it's coming out in the States. I checked because someone asked me after I wrote a good review on Twitter, and I think it had like one screening somewhere once.
It might be New York, LA.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it'll be one of these I think hopefully it'll be one of these films where it starts picking up the awards buzz and then gets a bit of a wider release.
Yeah. If anything, unfortunately, I think it might just end up being online.
More than likely, man. So rushing along, the most recent film I've seen, which, as we record this, is on Sunday, which was a Friday night, was the new DC film, Blue Beetle. Yes, a new DC film that exists in the weird, because it's not quite the new DCU yet, but it's still not fully the old one. And I think we can all freely admit that the trailers, when we talked about this, didn't look that great. It looked a little bit like a Power Rangers film in some places. Like, the effects didn't look great, the suits didn't look that good.
They definitely looked a little more cartoonish, but in the sense that it was just still a step above Flash, I believe.
Well, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, but
headlined by Cobra Kai star, and again, you're going to absolutely just, throughout this review, Jose, you're going to smoke me on my pronunciations of Latino names here. So feel free to jump in. Headlined by Cobra Kai star Jolo Mariduena.
Mariduena.
Right.
Jolo Maridueña.
See, you can do the accent. I can't do the accent.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it falls apart. It's definitely not the translation.
I mean, I'd say, if anything, it's better than your Irish interpretations.
I was about to say, we've already offended all of Ireland, so why not, all the Spanish-speaking people in the world.
There we go.
But yeah, this film really couldn't have come with lower expectations, I think, because it was originally rumoured to originally just be a HBO Max only movie. But its main producer is one of the new co-heads of the DCU, Peter Safran, along with James Gunn. So obviously the two of them thought, no, actually, do you know what? This is good enough for a cinema release. And also, it did have a relatively smaller budget compared to the bigger superhero films. The budget was just apparently around 100 million for this, which is nothing. Funny? Just a drop in the ocean these days. Yeah.
Oh yes.
So it was. It actually was. It was worth releasing. It was a film that I will now talk about, which is something I'm going to cut. So Jolo, he plays Jamie Reyes, but it's pronounced Jaime, right?
Jaime Reyes. Yeah.
Yeah, and he regularly tells everyone who pronounces his name wrong throughout the film, which I loved.
Oh, it's a great running joke.
Yeah, just a running joke. Every time a white person, not just pronounces like their names wrong, he tells them, well, it's Jaime Reyes, not Jamie. I was like, great.
You want to hear a fun fact that I didn't realize? That's my uncle's name, Jaime.
You didn't know your uncle's name?
No, I didn't know I didn't know the character name because I was seeing it as Jamie, but I think but my uncle, like here, Jamie spelled Jamie.
The spelling on the script is just me guessing. Just writing it phonetically, so I knew roughly how more to pronounce it.
Okay, because Jaime, the way my uncle spells is Jaime, but
it's just a little one of the letters round, isn't it?
It's a little more obvious, although it could be probably still misinterpreted.
Definitely going to be.
But onto the movie.
Yeah. So he lives with his family in the largely Latino community of Palmera City, and has just returned from college as a proud graduate. However, life doesn't really go as planned, and through a chance meeting with Jenny Cord, he acquires a scarab that bonds with him and gives him a suit that's kind of like a cross between Venom and Iron Man. And of course, you have bad guys, which are led by Susan Sarandon's Victoria Cord, and she wants the scarab back, which puts Jaime and his family in danger. Now, I knew next to nothing about the Blue Beetle character going into this, so I was blind. And as I said, I had really low expectations of this, but do you know what? I actually quite enjoyed it. Yes, it's a predictable superhero origin story by the numbers, but the cast are so well written and bring so much charisma to the screen, especially the rest of the Reyes family later on. And later on, Grandma Reyes will absolutely steal the film. She just steals it. And as we talked briefly before, it's another win for representation here, because you've got your first live-action Latino superhero with almost all Latino cast and directed by Angel Manuel Soto, a Puerto Rican director.
There we go.
And bar one scene where there's a few brief mentions of Batman and Superman. I think it is his uncle says Batman's a fascist. That's in the trailer. Yeah. This film is just completely separate from the old DCU films. There's nothing other. There's just them basically talking about other superheroes in one scene briefly, and that's it.
So no post credits, nothing. Credit with.
No, it's all just connected to this film, which is what I like.
Excellent. I like that.
And what makes this film work is a family element. How many origin films do you see where it's ages before the hero reveals his alter ego and he doesn't tell his family? And how do I tell my family? I mean, Spider-Man, it took him how many years to do that? In the Tom Holland iterations?
Yes, you're right.
Here, the family are fully present and they're standing around looking at the scarab when it takes over him at the very start of the film. So, and it's a masterstroke bringing the whole family along. Because usually, even then, you think, okay, the family's discovered that, and that's it. Bung him off to the side. He's going to go out and he's going to fight supervillains, and he's going to be involved. No, his family come along for the ride with him for the rest of the film.
Oh, and awesome.
Mum, dad, sister, grandma, they are just important to moving the plot forward as Jaime is. And like we mentioned off camera earlier, I'd love to see how this film played to Latino audiences. So I highly recommend you go and see it, Jose, because I'd love to know how much more you guys are going to get with all the extra cultural references. Because there's quite a few bits where they're talking, and the subtitles are put up for us, non-Spanish speakers. But in a few parts, I noticed, I was like, there's definitely no subtitles on that line there.
Well, that's the funny thing that when we were talking about it earlier is there's actually a trailer where they speak in Spanish without a subtitle. And George Lopez says a curse word in Spanish, and I'm surprised that they allowed it. Yeah, but I guess because it was geared here in America, even though like there are obviously a lot of Spanish speakers in the States, it's funny how they were like, oh, it's Spanish, no one's going to notice. And it's like really one of the more common curse words in Spanish.
We occasionally get that in a film when there's like a British character and someone comes out with a British swear word, or like it always amazed me when I heard wanker in like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I was like, that's no, you can't say that. And like twat in some shows, you're like, do you know what that means? Like, no.
Yes. And I think it's a great example in terms of like how exposed these words can be is Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. I remember that being a very big issue back when that came out.
I would say for me, the closest similarity you could have from this film is that it's basically like a Latino live action Spider-Man. You know, Reyes is younger. He's kind of got the cool suit and all the powers. Again, the main guy, like he's really charismatic and he really carries it. I will say, because like we mentioned, it cost 100 million, which is pocket change for this type of films. But I think in the actual film, the practical suits look a lot better because they're augmented by CGI. And I think one thing we're going to start seeing with the DC films, especially after you look at like the CGI in Guardians 3, which was amazing. I think with Gunn, it means the DC films, you're going to get more time to complete your SFX work. And as we always say on this podcast, there's no bad CGI. There's just CGI that wasn't given enough time or money.
Yes. And funny that you mentioned that because I think another suit that was really well done with practical and then added in post was the Suicide Squad with Idris Elba's character, where pieces came off. Yeah. Bloodsport. The pieces came off his suit, and so it wasn't an unlimited amount of weapons. It was all limited by how much was still on his body. And I saw a featurette on it, and it was just amazing to realize just how well they planned that out.
I mean, it's funny because you get all these things. Oh, well, CGI versus practical. No. Either of them both work well together as well. Like anything, it just needs time and money spent on it.
Yes.
That's the thing, time. We see so many comments, I guess, on our film Twitter where we're going through it, and there's SFX sites going, no, it's not shit CGI. And I spent 2 years of our life on this, and then they tried to rush it and make us do it in like half the time. Of course, it's not going to be good.
Marvel's kind of notorious for changing end scenes, like where they're like, you know what, we're going to change the entire end of the movie, and you got to make it happen. And that's all going to factor in. But I'm really glad to hear that with Blue Beetle, because it did seem like a very CGI heavy suit that they actually incorporated practical effects.
No, I really enjoyed it. I mean, look, the film doesn't reinvent the wheel as like superhero films go. It's really by the numbers. You can see every beat of the plot coming. There's no surprises in that sense. But sometimes you don't need that.
Yeah.
Like, we're all for getting representation for different communities in films. And like Spider-Verse this year and like the year before has been great for having that in like an animated form. But now you've got it in live action. Look at the response when Black Panther came out. Right?
Yeah.
And the more communities and people who aren't represented well on screen suddenly have that character there. That's great. That's what we want. It's not, I'm not even going to say the W word. It's not that. It's just, no, these characters have been around for ages, but people haven't been interested in seeing them, or the people who wanted to bring these stories to the screen. I mean, how many times in the past have you had a superhero film and there's been a character of a different ethnicity, but it's been written and directed by a white guy? Now you're getting films from these communities made by people from these communities, and that's exactly what you want. Because otherwise, what's the point in doing it? You literally, these stories are what need to be. These stories need to be told, man.
There's a lot of great subtleties that are brought from having personal experience, like in Across the Spider-Verse. There's a great moment with Miles Morales and his mom before he goes on this experience. And for me personally, there's a part where the mom says, Dios te bendiga, God bless you. But the way that she says it, and it's just a common thing that my mom used to say to me every time I would go out. So it's something that, it seems so simple, but it's such a personal touch that I think a lot of Spanish moms would say,
Yeah, man. It's like, all the more for this. And I think Blue Beetle, it's doing well relatively. It's not obviously, they're not expecting to be a smash hit, but I'm hoping the good word of mouth on it. We were all expecting it to be bad, and then the initial word of mouth came out. I went, actually, no, it's not that bad. It's not brilliant. It's not going to change the world.
Yeah, I'm hoping that a good word of mouth will actually carry it to be a slow burn,
Well, without any spoilers, you have got 2 post-credit scenes. One is proper Marvel, this sets something else up for something else, cool. And then the other one is the very last one, if you are in a hurry, you don't really have to stick around for. It's just a silly little throwaway gag at the end.
Okay.
So if you are in a hurry when you're at the cinema, stay for the first one. You don't necessarily have to see the second one.
Yeah, or just go to the bathroom and then come back.
Yeah. So like I say, the film does leave threads open for a possible sequel, and I really think Blue Beetle, if done right going forward, could be DC's Spider-Man.
That's excellent.
Yeah, that's the comparison I got from it. It felt like Raimi's Spider-Man in tone.
That's awesome, because I it's funny enough that I did hear one review before, and there was a spoiler-free review. It was mostly just talking about the background of the Blue Beetle, and he said the same thing. It's just like DC's version of Spider-Man, young guy, great powers, a lot of things to go through. So I'm really glad to hear that the film was able to translate that.
Yeah, and I think Gunn's already said this is going forward. He's going to be in more
Excellent.
stuff. Go and see it, man, and I'd like to hear your reaction on it when you have seen it.
Will do.
Having said that, I did still give it 3.5 stars.
Out of 4, right? 3 out of
out of 5. Sadly.
Out of 5.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair response to what looks like a pretty average movie.
Yeah, it's average, but it's one of those things. It's average, but its heart's in the right place, and
excellent.
The cast are now we're going to move on to TV, and there has been a lot of TV, man. So much TV.
So much great TV.
One of my favourite things I've seen recently is an Australian crime drama show. Australian crime drama murder show.
Australian crime drama.
It's called Deadloch. I mean, it's got the word "dead" in the title, and lock spelled like Scottish lock, so Deadloch. Although I don't think it's pronounced that way. But it's set in Tasmania, a small town in Tasmania where a local football coach is found dead on the beach. And if you weren't sure of the tone of this show, this opening scene where 2 drunk girls on a night out stagger across the beach and one of them slips and they frame her face as she gets up right next to the guy's dick. And then there's a scream and then you go to your titles. And that kind of tells you the tone of this show. And again, it is black comedy and police drama, black comedy / drama. And it walks the line between comedy and drama so well. Or not. As some people have said, because I recommended this to David and his missus because I know they like their crime shows, and they watched the first episode and they hated it, and they will not be watching any more of them.
Wow! Do you think it was the crude humor?
I will tell you exactly what it is in a minute because a few other people have had the exact same reason with it. Murders in Deadloch aren't really a thing, and there's a really small police department of just 3 people. Our main character, the local chief, is Dulcie, played by the brilliant Kate Box, and ably assisted by the overeager Abby, a great Nina Oyama. And then you got Sven, played by Tom Ballard, who asks if the opening murder will make him late for his yoga class. That's kind of, the crack team you're dealing with.
For the record, I actually saw the trailer for this, and it actually convinced me to want to watch the show more.
Yes. Good.
Yeah, I really does look like a great black comedy.
And that's what it is, man. And the bosses basically don't think the local cop Dulcie can handle this by herself, so they decide to send in a detective from Darwin, to lead the case called Eddie Redcliffe, who everyone just assumes is a man, until she arrives, and she's clearly not. She's played by Madeleine Sammy. And I say interestingly because her performance has made or broke the show for a lot of people. And until her appearance, the show's like serious crime drama with hints of black comedy. But when Eddie arrives, she's like a drunken hurricane, overpowering every scene she's in. She swears more than a sailor. She immediately butts heads with Dulcie in her approach to the case. She just immediately goes for whatever she thinks is the simplest solution to something and wants to get out of there. And she just immediately, butts heads with Dulcie, who's like by the book, the buttoned down, more repressed character. And now one of my favourite podcasts, the Pilot TV Pod, they reviewed this first episode, and they were all kind of down on it because of Eddie's broad comedic performances. And it's sad because, again, this was David and his wife's same reaction. They couldn't stand Eddie. And it's a shame for me because as the episodes go by, her relationship with Dulcie grows and you find out why Eddie was sent to Deadloch, and it softens her character a little bit. I think Eddie can be a bit much at the start, but I think it's because her demeanour, language, and generally everything about her character make her feel like a typical male character in this type of show. So much so that almost everyone in the town immediately thinks she's a lesbian. And that's kind of ironic, really, because there's a massively large lesbian community in this town. So the show kind of has this whole thing with rich lesbians coming in and gentrifying the town, and like the locals not being, like they're not up with all like the art and all the changes that these new women are bringing into the community. So there's kind of like, men are not portrayed very well in this show. Let me say, Jose.
Oh,
we're on a par pretty much with all the portrayals of men in Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, where I don't think there was one redeemable male character in this. Oh, we got Sven in this though. We got Sven, who's
Oh yeah. Oh,
at
so you
least
want to
kind
think
of half
more?
cares about his job.
So it sounds more like the recent Charlie's Angels rehash with Kristen
I've not
Stewart.
seen that. I've not seen it. I heard it was
saw
terrible.
I saw a review. Every single male was a jerk, literally. So I think that would be a better comparison.
It is, but I mean, this is kind of what Deadloch's really about. It's a show about how many of the men in the town have cheated on their partners over the year or abused them, and now they're all starting to turn up dead. And like I say,
Wow.
there's a real flourishing LGBT community in Deadloch, and you can kind of see the societal disconnect between the two communities as the case unfolds and the townsfolk start blaming each other. But look,
Wow.
as I said, Deadloch's not for everyone, and a lot of that is down to the performance of Sammy. And I think you either go with her performance or it stops you from continuing the show, which will be a shame. It's like she does become more likable as the show progresses, and as you learn more about her background.
Mm-hmm.
Kate Box is superb as Dulcie, the other half of this like double act, who's all bottled repression and trying to do things by the book. And I really think, like I say, it's quite a feminist show at its heart, with a strong LGBT community at the heart of the show, and you've got many gay couples making up most of the main characters. And later on in the show, it's really funny when you see how utterly useless the main male police team, when they kind of all like try and take over the case, are when they all arrive. They're just utterly, they are so stupid. They're almost like, they completely ignore all the work Dulcie and Eddie have done and just chase ludicrous leads. And they're almost like Keystone Cops in it, like charging off in like the wrong direction and just absolutely not seeing it at all. The whole cast is superb, and even the smaller side characters have great arcs throughout the show. Abby, who you saw in the trailer, was like the Asian Australian girl who's part of the cop there. She's hilarious as the overeager young police officer. You meet her fiance, who's a local medical examiner, who's suddenly starting getting all these bodies rocking up, which is giving him more work to do. And immediately, the first time you meet him, you're like, he is a massive dickhead. And you see her arc with him like developing as the show goes on. There is a character called Ray Pies who tells Eddie at one point, "Please don't call me that, because that's not my surname." And she's like, "Why do they call you Ray Pies then?" She goes, "Say it slowly. Say it slowly, Jose."
Ray Pies.
Yes.
Ray Pies.
Yep. There you go. They even
Wow.
a rape joke in. Yeah.
Wow. That is really, that's serious right there.
Black comedy. And there's a really funny scene at one of the wakes where one of the widowed women repeatedly starts butchering singing live song Lightning Crashes. And then they play actual lightning crashes in the episode, which was a brilliant song that my band used to play years ago. So I got a kick out of that. And like I say, as more bodies start dropping, everyone in the town becomes a suspect. And the show does a really good job of making you question everyone without obviously giving away the killer's identity. And like I say, it's a great show. And if you can get past Eddie, and that's a big if for a lot of people, even I grated with some of her language at some point, because I've never seen so many women call other women the C word in a show like this before. Honestly, it's like they were trying to outdo South Park or something. Like,
it's like the N word for the Blackening.
Yes, man, it's up there. The C word for the. I was going to say, the cunting, but I just did. So there you go. Look,
maybe bleep that out, but use it in the trailer.
Hey, we got the explicit mark when we put the pod out. It's fine, man.
Excellent.
I would say if you like the first episode, then you'll love the rest of the series, and if you don't, then the show's clearly not going to be for you.
Good warning.
And the next up, Jose, I believe you want to talk about a show that I saw months ago, but I'm going to forgive you for that. Based off the 2010 autobiographical novel In With the Devil, a fallen hero, a serial killer, and a dangerous bargain for redemption by James Keane and Hillel Levin. And I think James Keane is the main character that Taron Egerton plays in this show. It is Taron Egerton in prison, essentially. And he's facing a weapons and drugs thing, and he's basically looking at a 10-year prison sentence without a chance for parole after his lawyers completely fuck him in the first episode at the start.
Yes.
But the FBI come to him with a deal because they're trying to find out where some bodies are from a convicted serial killer. And they make a deal with Jimmy saying, if you can get a confession out of this guy, we'll let you go and we'll wipe all charges. And that's your setup. What do you think, Jose?
I think it is great because, I mean, even in the trailer that you watch, you think Taron Egerton is going to be what's going to be the draw. And what turns out is Paul Walter Hauser is actually amazing at being an awkward, creepy, potential killer. I mean, I don't want to give away, or because I haven't even seen the ending, what happens. I think we all know what's going to happen though. But Paul Walter Hauser is actually really great at the role he plays. He's done a few different versions of this because I've seen him in I, Tonya, and also currently watching The After Party. He is actually a really good actor in terms of playing roles that are just a little bit different, a little bit more interesting. Taron Egerton is a great, handsome leading man. He's very physically imposing. You know, he's in great shape for this. And
a lot of people thought, because of his physical appearance in this, and like obviously the white tank tops all the time, Wolverine.
Yeah,
and there are rumors that he may have met for Wolverine.
I think that would be a great opportunity for him as well. Actually,
well, he's short and big, isn't he now? So.
Yeah, he's very stout. I think other great performances. Ray Liotta doesn't have a lot, but what he does is amazing. And sadly,
one of his final performances.
Away. Yeah, Greg Kinnear is a great side character, which adds great to the story. And I'm gonna probably butcher this name. Sepideh Moafi plays a character named Lauren McCauley. She's part of the FBI. Her moments really add to the stress of the show, and I think this cast.
I thought she was really good, man. She's an Iranian American actress, and I hadn't seen her in anything before. But she looks like someone like who she looks like another actress who's more famous. So I don't know. There was part. I was just watching. I was like, oh yeah, the whole cast were brilliant, man. I mean, how many episodes are you into this now, Jose?
I'd say I'm at least 6 episodes in, so I'm getting there.
You're near the end.
I'm near the end, and
there are only 6 episodes, Jose. So.
Oh, maybe I thought 6 episodes. I want to feel like I'm at least more than halfway done, so maybe 4 episodes in.
I think what the show does really well as you're watching it is it's that sense of impending danger for Jimmy.
Yes.
Is he going to make it out? And how's the relationship going to develop with Larry?
Yeah, I think it's just really well paced. It allows itself to take its time. It doesn't rush into anything, even for the character, which he has to rush a little bit. The whole process is actually really, really well paced. I think that a lot of shows and movies sometimes have to rush things to make it happen quickly. But that's one thing about Blackbird. I think that really helps it is it takes its time. It doesn't really go anywhere that it doesn't need to right away, even though there is a sense of impending timing.
Doom. This came out over a year ago. This came out last July, Jose.
Wow.
Because I was trying to think, oh yeah, Egerton should definitely be up for awards for this, and I think he was. I think he has been nominated at the Emmys in there's so many different categories. I'm definitely sure he's up for one of them for this. So moving on to our spoiler section.
This is your spoiler alert,
where we're going to talk and basically spoil everything from Apple TV's Platonic.
Yeah.
Now, from Bad Neighbours director Nicholas Stoller, which also starred Rose Byrne and Seth Rogen as terrible new parents in 2 films, we now get Platonic, where they played terrible best friends together, who had fallen out of touch and reconnect after Rogen's character gets divorced, while Byrne's character is feeling restless with just being a mum and putting her law career on hold. Now, there is one line in one of these final episodes that sums up the show for me, Jose, and Sylvia's relationship with Will, which is when her husband Charlie says to her, I feel like the second most important man in your life, and her response is that she feels like such a mess compared to him, that she needs a friend like Will, who is also a mess, so she can feel better about herself. Which is kind of they're trying to kind of play that as like a good thing. I was like, no, that makes her kind of a dick if you ask me. Probably not what they were going for, probably not what he was expecting there, but I was like, wait, so yeah, you just basically want to hang around with him because he's more of a screw up than you are, and so you feel good by comparison.
Well, I actually interpret it a little bit differently. I get what you're saying, but it's almost like when she hangs out with her friend, she's allowed to be a screw up, and when she hangs out with her husband, he's so polished, and honestly, he plays a really polished character, but he's not perfect. It just that's the way she sees him. But when she's with her husband, she just feels like she can't keep up with him. So I see the comparison, and I interpret it just slightly differently.
Yeah.
I don't think she's out to make sure that her friend is worse.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's an active thing she's doing. I interpret it as like the way I could definitely see it from that point of view. Where wait a minute, you're just hanging out with me because your life's a bigger screw up than mine.
Yeah, but as I'm going to start kind of commentating right away, but as I think in real life, this show does a pretty good job of showing the nuance of their relationship, their friendship. As much as this show can do in a handful of episodes. But I think it does a really good job at showing her, explaining on that, because they don't even say that until later in the season. But I think once you get to that point when she says that, it makes sense why she says that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when this show started, we talked about it briefly when we started watching it a few episodes back. And initially, the premise of this had a bit of a whiff of When Harry Met Sally. You know, the whole thing because that's at least what I thought at the start. You know, we were wondering, are they actually going to get together? Which you correctly called, no, they wouldn't, Jose. So well done on that.
It's the name of the show. It's the name of the show.
To be fair, yeah. And although I did guess that the husband might do something because he did seem too perfect, and he does drunkenly dance. Well, I can't even say sexually dance with a co-worker because they look terrible doing it. And
very awkward.
They like dry hump for about 15 seconds before he immediately goes home and confesses to Sylvia. That was a nice counterpoint because there's a few episodes before Sylvia had got fired on her first day back at work in a job that Charlie had helped her get, and she was too embarrassed to tell him. So naturally, he was angry when he found out that, of course, she tells Charlie, but she couldn't tell him, which then leads to his minor indiscretion. So it's kind of she causes that, and then he causes it back. So it kind of gives her almost a get out of jail free card for doing that. And you see her really milking it and having fun by tormenting him. And like, you're going to take the kids out for pizza then? Right. Oh, yeah, they're all staying over tonight. Oh, Will's going to stay over. Okay.
And actually, I really liked it how she milked it, because in most scenarios, the wife would be like, oh, okay, we can talk this out and now we're even. No, she's petty. And I love it because she milked it and did all of that.
Well, yeah, see, I think her storyline was stronger than Will's for most of the show.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought her storyline was better. She had more of an arc. I like Seth Rogen stuff, but I generally found his character quite unlikable at times in this. He's still being a dickish man-child a lot of the time. I mean, his arc basically was he got fired or / forced to resign from his own company because he couldn't change and was being a dick all the time. And then suddenly, in the last 2 episodes, he finally says, fuck it, quits, moves, and gets engaged himself. All that stuff came so quickly to me in the last few episodes.
I see what you're saying, but technically he didn't get engaged right away. It was a year later.
No, it's like right at the end.
Yeah. But I think that's why it works for me, is that Rose Byrne was the more stable one, but she was just feeling in an awkward space. And Seth Rogen was just in a chaotic life, especially after his character is shown to be in a divorce. So I think because of their meeting again and all the chaos, and they end up coming and learning from each other almost at the end.
I feel like with his character, I don't really think he's like grown. When you get to the end, because he was married before.
Yeah, and that's kind of shows you how he probably never grew up, even when he was married. And then even in the I think the episode where they show him with the 20-year-old, I believe.
Yeah.
And then he realizes what's going on. I think that's like a switch that goes off in his head.
Maybe, but perhaps they should have referenced that a bit more. We didn't see much after that kind of thing goes off. Mm-hmm. I think Sylvia's that was around episodes sort of 4 or 5, maybe in the middle of the series. And her storyline kind of overtook the main narrative of the show at that point. We didn't really get any more of his love life, or you had his work thing. But I felt like it was probably, the way the story was divided was probably 3/4 more on her than it was on him. If we watch the show back, it's probably fairly even because these things probably would be. But to me, it just felt like his storyline wasn't as good. And
I'd say it's more like that. I think his storyline wasn't well developed and not necessarily uneven.
I have to kind of say, I mean, at least at the end of it, I did like that this show had a definite end. Like, I don't see him doing another series. I was like, right, he's done it. You've met up.
I was actually pleasantly surprised by that, because I was like, okay, are they going to just milk this for another episode, another season? But they didn't. They really wrapped it up very nicely.
I mean, I will say this is a perfectly fine 3-star show for me. Like, it wasn't appointment viewing. Like, I didn't watch it. I didn't have to watch it each week. Like, at the minute, whenever a new episode of Foundation is out, I have to watch it that night. This wasn't that show. This was, I'm tired. My brain's not really working. I don't want anything that's over an hour long to watch. I'll watch some of Platonic. Yeah. And it was only because we knew we were going to talk about this today that I finally got around to watching the last 3 episodes, as I found out that I had to watch.
Oh, wow.
Crammed those in on... I crammed them in on Friday night, yeah. So
you probably have then a better memory of it, because I'm kind of looking at it back with foggy.
Well, I watched the last 3 pretty much back to back, and I just felt like I wasn't sure about Sylvia's arc at the end, where look, we get that she doesn't want to be just a mum anymore, and that she clearly spectacularly failed at returning to be a lawyer, and that was more down to she just like, do you know what I am? It's kind of implied that she's too old for it and just can't keep up with it anymore.
Yeah,
which is a bit sexist, to be fair. Like, because her husband's probably the same age as him, right?
That's not sexist. That's ageist.
Ageist. Well, because she's a woman and can't keep up with it, and
I thought it was more that. I thought it was. Oh, okay. You're comparing it to like her husband.
Yeah, because her husband's they're around. I'm guessing they're around the same age. We don't know exactly, and he's like juggling it. But then again, she is doing all the mum stuff, right? And
yes.
So I don't think if you've got a law degree, you suddenly go, oh, I'm going to become a wedding planner in like an episode and a half. And that's me now. And I was like...
I think you'd be surprised. I've seen stories of people having very established jobs and shifting gears.
Oh, yeah. I can totally get that. It's just in the show, you have like an episode and a half where she has his turn. This is my new career now. Oh, okay. But wasn't the whole show about you feeling restless and not knowing and comparing yourself to your friend who's a loser? And then suddenly you just, I'm doing this now. And it's like literally you have organize a friend's wedding and then it would cut to a year later and she's like, crack wedding commando woman on the phone.
Yeah, maybe
it just kind of come out of nowhere for me. Skills. I think if I'd watched it week by week, it might not have felt so thing.
You know what? I think that does make a difference then, because I watched it week by week, and it gave me.
It seemed like a year she'd been doing it.
So yeah, you know what? I think that's one of something that we probably can pull from this is if you binge it, you see more of the inconsistencies and the cracks in the foundation, as to where when you watch it weekly. You have more time to let things sink in.
Yeah,
so
and
I think that's an interesting observation.
I think that's true of many shows. Well, I think that kind of wraps us up here for today, Jose. There is a lot coming up soon that I haven't told you about that we are going to be watching, or I'm going to be watching that we will be talking about. In the next couple of weeks, I've got a preview screening of Theatre Camp next week, which looks amazing. Have you heard of Theatre Camp?
I have. I've even seen the trailer, which I thought was hilarious because I know a few theater friends.
And that, to me, looks like if you took the subplot of Amy Poehler's subplot from Wet Hot American Summer and just made the whole film about that.
Yes.
Shot it in like a cinema verite kind of style. It does look really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing that on Tuesday. And then I think the week after, I've got a preview screening of Past Lives, which we talked about on the previous preview pod last month.
Yes.
I thought was like a South Korean drama. And no, it's actually in English. But it's an American / South. I think the director's Canadian. I think I remember saying Celine Song. And this again, I think this is her debut, and this is every review 5 stars, masterpiece, romantic, one of the best romantic dramas of all time. So I've got a preview screening of that. However, one thing I haven't mentioned, and I've become a massive addict of, and I think this might be a good place for David to start on when we get into watch it, is Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. I have binged the whole first series now, and I loved it. I did it in a week.
Strange New Worlds is a completely different show.
Yeah.
That's only... Is season 2 just come out, or is it about to come out?
Season 2's can't just come out over here now. So
okay. So I actually think this is a show that I've thought was around a lot more, but I must be confusing it with another show where the lead actress was black and had the Asian actress in the first season as a villain.
Oh, you're thinking of Star Trek Discovery.
Discovery. So those are very... very different shows.
Discovery, right, was their kind of darker, more adult swearing, sex, violence.
Yes, because I watched about 4 episodes of that, and it was good. But I thought Strange New Worlds had come out around the same time, and I thought they did a crossover.
So I think what a lot of people found was that people don't like Star Trek being dark, and they want it to be hopeful and optimistic, and that's kind of and go back to the more serialized version of the original show. Like the original series was all, the original series and Next Generation for most of its run we're going to investigate this gas nebula this week. Oh, something's gone wrong with the holodeck. And it allowed them to sort of play with different genres and talk about different issues within the show, rather than telling a hard sci-fi show that goes down the same route. It's telling one story. So, like, for example, Picard Season 3 was one story every week, but brought in elements of that. And there was a clamour for, like, Pike and Rebecca Romijn's character to get their own show, which obviously became Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. And I think I remember watching the first episode like a year or so ago when it first came out. I was like, that was fine, but I've got no real compunction to watch the rest of it. And then since Season 2's come out, and everyone's been raving about it in the States, I thought, okay, let's get back into it. Let's give it another try. And I loved it, Jose. It's exactly what. It's so funny, and it does have character development. Just because there's a different story each week doesn't mean that the characters' relationships aren't changing. And like I say, there was one episode where they introduced a villain called the Gorn, and it was like something out of Alien.
Wow.
With like monsters bursting out of people and like humans being used as breeding sacks and like hunted. I was like, this is hardcore. Then there's another episode where it all takes place in a fantasy world where the ship is like a fantasy world.
Oh,
because
wow.
there's a gas nebula that makes a little girl's bedtime book become real. So the captain's suddenly like a court jester and a coward and running away. And
Wow.
that's what makes the show work so well, is that every episode there's a slightly different, this one's a comedy, this one's a horror, this one's a political thriller.
Strange New Worlds is a definite must-watch. Now, two questions for you, honestly.
Yeah.
Do I need to watch anything from Discovery to jump into Strange New Worlds?
I would say no, because they recap the setup with Strange New Worlds is Captain Pike finds out in Discovery with all the time shenanigans that he knows when he's going to die and how he's going to die.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so you get a recap of that at the very first episode of Strange New World, and they kind of deal with that as the show goes on.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But honestly, the show looks amazing. It's really well written.
Yeah.
A lot of the actors I'd never heard of before. You got a British Asian actress in it called Christina Chong, who is hilarious. She's really funny in it. You've got the Australian girl who plays the Doctor. You got Spock in it. Ethan Peck Spock, from Discovery as well, when he was in that. He's in this one as well. He gets loads to do. And I like how little by little they start bringing in people who are going to be in the original series version.
Oh, so, okay.
Kirk's brother, which comes into it at one point. In the last episode of Series 1, you hear a Scottish voice from an engineering from another ship. And you're like, that's going to be Scotty. That's going to be Scotty. So it's not just fan service. It's very subtly layered in. But yeah, I've now got season 2 all to watch. And so that's my, when I'm on holiday next week, that's it, man.
You know what's funny is how you ended that with some fan service. The second question I have for you is, have you seen Star Trek Lower Decks?
Yes, and I really need to see the crossover episode.
Yes.
Purely because I was at a live podcast last night in London, Pilot TV podcast, who, again, is my favourite podcast that I listen to every week. I listen to all 250 episodes of it. And they did a live show up in London that I went to. One of the guests was Ricky Gervais early on. But they were doing literally what we're doing now, where they were talking about what they've been watching. And the main host, he had put off watching it because he doesn't like shows. He likes shows that have a compounding narrative that goes the whole way through it. He doesn't like ones where it's, procedurals where investigate this thing of the week. But then the same thing happened to him. Everyone was raving about how great season 2 was. So he finally got into it. But then he only bloody went and showed clips from season 2 that I hadn't seen yet during the show last night on the screen. So I saw they do a full musical episode.
Oh, wow.
Which apparently, Klingons rapping in Klingon rap was not what I was expecting. So we saw that. And then also there was, they showed a bit of the animated crossover where, Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome, who played Boimler and
Mariner.
So then we get Boimler and Mariner coming over into live action. And again, I was just and everyone was raving about that. So I was like, okay, I've really got to see it. So I've got season 2 all queued up now. I'm ready to go.
Yes.
I just need to start it. So we got plenty. We got plenty to be talking about, folks. We're also going to be starting to record our Patreon special soon, and we are going to be doing deep dive specials. Also, we're going to be launching a Patreon because basically we need super yachts. I mean, that's why we all do this. Fame, fortune, and super yachts, man. It's basically super yachts. It's basically like the boats and hose from Step Brothers. That's what I imagine being a podcaster. The end game is for all of us, right?
All right, boats and hose.
So, that's all the time we got for this week. We'll see you next time.
Cheers, mate.
We needed roads.